The great ship hung in the void above the gray world, a dark scar against the tapestry of stars. It was a vessel of the Accord, a vast and ancient galactic hegemony, and it moved with a certainty that spoke of quiet, unchallenged power. On the bridge, the commander watched the planet below, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the dim light. She was old for her kind, her carapace bearing the faint, honorable discolorations of time and service. The mission was simple, a standard integration. This world, newly contacted and deemed suitable, would join the Accord. Its dominant species, the humans, would be assessed, categorized, and assigned their role. The preliminary scans showed a typical pre-consolidation society, fractured, noisy, and dangerously emotive. It would be a mercy to bring them order. Below, in a small observatory perched on a lonely mountain, a human looked up. He was old too, in his own way. His hair was the color of the ash outside, and his hands, resting on the telescope's controls, were marked with the faint lines of old labor. He watched the ship, a dark geometric shape blotting out familiar constellations. He felt no fear, only a deep, weary familiarity. He had seen ships like that before, long ago, in a different sector, under a different sun. He returned to his work, adjusting a dial. The radio telescope beside him hummed, listening to the silent screams of the universe. The integration began as it always did. Accord shuttles descended in perfect formation. Local governments were contacted. The undeniable benefits of the Accord were explained, and the absolute nature of its laws were made clear. Resistance was noted, catalogued, and efficiently mitigated. The humans, as predicted, were fractious. Some embraced the new order. Some raged against it. The Accord proceeded, methodical and calm. The commander observed, her mandibles clicking softly in a rhythm of mild disappointment. These beings were so fragile, so loud. Their history was a chronicle of self-inflicted wounds. They would benefit greatly from the silence of unity. A week into the process, an anomaly occurred. A high-value Accord transport, carrying cultural integrators and doctrinal enforcers, experienced a catastrophic systems failure over a major human city. It did not crash politely in a designated field. It tumbled from the sky, a screaming torch of metal and plasma careening towards a dense population center. On the bridge, the commander watched the data stream. Calculations flashed. The loss of life would be suboptimal. The political fallout would require adjustments. She ordered a tractor beam lock, but the angle was poor, the atmospheric interference severe. The transport was going to impact Dot in the observatory. The old human saw the fire in the sky on his monitors. He did not see a ship of conquerors. He saw a vessel in distress. He saw a city of millions below. His hands moved, not with the speed of panic, but with the deliberate precision of a man recalling a deeply ingrained rhythm. He bypassed his own systems, his fingers dancing across a keyboard that he had built himself decades ago. His signal was not a weapon. It was a song, a specific rhythmic pulse of gravimetric distortion, a tune he had learned from a very different people in a very different war. He aimed it not at the ship, but at the empty air beside it. The Accord transport shuddered. For a fraction of a second, space itself seemed to flex. The tractor beam operators reported a sudden, impossible shift in the vessel's trajectory. The burning transport was pushed, just a few degrees, just enough. It missed the city center, plowing into the cold waters of the bay in a great steam cloud of devastation. The loss of Accord personnel was total. The loss of human life was zero. The bridge was silent. The commander reviewed the data. The intervention was clear, and its source was pinpointed, a solitary structure on a mountain. It was not an act of war. It was an act of salvation. But the method, the gravitational signature, it was not human technology. It was something else, something old and almost forgotten. A memory, faint and buried deep in her long life, stirred. She ordered a detachment to the location. She would go herself. They found him waiting outside, a simple coat wrapped around his thin frame, the wind pulling at his hair. He stood before the armored figures, their polished carapaces gleaming, their weapons held at a ready but non-threatening posture. The commander stepped forward, her tall form imposing against the bleak landscape. She looked at the frail human, then at the humble observatory. "You interfered," she said, her voice a synthesized translation, smooth and devoid of inflection. "The city was full of people," the human replied, his voice quiet but steady. "Your method of interference is not of your world. Explain its origin." The human was silent for a long moment, looking past her into the past. "It was a long time ago. The signature matches a technique used by the Keeper, dynasty of the Zilner Hive. That knowledge was lost when their last queen fell. How does a human from a pre-consolidation world possess it?" The old man met her multifaceted gaze. He did not answer her question. Instead, he said, "Your transport. It was failing. The primary grav coil was overheating, wasn't it? A cascade failure starting from the port side regulator. It's a flaw in the older models. A harmonic imbalance. You have to adjust the dampeners by 3% to compensate." The commander went utterly still. The technical readouts from the transport's final moments had just been decrypted. They confirmed his words exactly. A flaw known only to senior Accord engineers. A fix that was not in any human database. "Who are you?" The commander's voice lost its synthetic calm, betraying a ripple of something unknown. The old man smiled, a small, sad thing. "I was a soldier. A long time ago, during the Rim War, my ship was destroyed. I drifted. I was found by a Zilner scavenger vessel." The memory in the commander's mind, vague and blurred by centuries, suddenly sharpened into painful, crystalline focus. The Rim War, a brutal, forgotten conflict on the edge of Accord space. The Zilner Hive had been nearly destroyed. Their last queen had died. Her heir, a princess, had been missing, presumed dead. "I was injured," the human continued, his eyes distant. "They were not like us. They saw a wounded creature. They took me in. They healed me. They sang to me. Their science was a kind of music. They taught me some of their songs. The princess, she was curious. She would sit with me, and I would tell her stories of Earth. She taught me how to listen to gravity." The commander took a step back, her armored legs unsteady. The princess, the lost heir. The story said a lone alien creature had aided her, had fought beside her to reclaim her birthright. That the creature had vanished after the war. The Zilner revered the memory, speaking of a strange, soft-skinned being who sang their songs. "The princess," the commander whispered, the formal syntax of the Accord breaking. "What did you call her?" The human's smile deepened, touched with an old grief. "She was just a child. I called her Little Spark, because her eyes, they glittered like starlight on the carapace of a beetle I had as a boy." He looked directly at the commander, his ancient eyes seeing not a conqueror, but a link to a distant past. "She survived. She became queen. And then, I heard, her line ended when her world was pacified by the Accord." The commander felt the world tilt. The pacification of the Zilner remnant had been her first command. A clean, clinical operation. Order had been established. The unique, dissonant Zilner science had been absorbed, filed away. She had never asked what happened to the queen. A queen was just a political unit to be reassigned or retired. She had never seen the being, only the data point. And now, here stood a human, from a backwater world, speaking a truth that had been erased. He had saved the daughter of a queen. He had saved a city of his own people, using the song of that queen's people. He knew the secrets of Accord ships because he had lived among a civilization the Accord had consumed. "You are the creature from the stories," the commander said, her voice hollow. "The soft singer? I am a man," he said. "I came home. I tried to forget. But you don't forget a song like that." The commander looked from the old human to her troops, to the ships in the sky, and then down to the gray planet. This was not a simple integration. This was an echo. This man, with his quiet eyes and remembering hands, was not just a human. He was a witness. He was a living bridge to a history the Accord had smoothed over. A reminder that before they were categories and assignments, the species they integrated were stories and families, and songs. The absolute certainty that had guided her for centuries fissured. He had not saved the city as an act of defiance. He had saved it because it was the right thing to do, using a kindness that had been shown to him. The Accord brought order. But this human and the long-dead Zilner spoke of something else. Connection. A melody across species that demanded compassion, not control. "Your world." The commander began, but the words faltered. "Our world is loud and messy and painful," the old man said. "We hurt each other. We make mistakes. But we also learn. We also remember. We also save what we can, even if it's just one person or one city. Even," he added softly, "if it's the daughter of a queen we never knew." The wind blew between them, carrying the dust of the mountain. The commander made a decision. It was not in her protocols. It was not optimal. It was, perhaps, the first truly personal decision she had made in 100 years. "The integration assessment will be reconsidered," she said. The troops glanced at her, but her posture was absolute. "Your species requires further study. A deeper study." She turned to leave, then paused. She looked back at the old man, who stood watching the stars begin to appear as the great ship shifted its shadow. "Soft singer," she said, the title feeling strange on her translator. "Do you remember me, human?" The old man studied her face, the lines of her carapace, the subtle patterns that denoted her lineage and rank. He saw not a commander, but a faint, ghostly echo of a glittering, curious child from a lifetime ago. A child of a different people, a different hive. "No," he said, his voice full of a quiet, boundless kindness. "But I remember her." The commander inclined her head, a gesture of respect from her species. It was the only answer, and the only one she needed. She returned to her ship. That night, the Accord fleet received new orders. They would withdraw to high orbit. The integration was paused indefinitely. The report filed to the High Council was dense with technical anomalies and recommended extended observation. On the mountain, the old human went back inside. He sat before his radio telescope, listening to the music of the spheres. He adjusted a frequency, and for the first time in decades, he began to hum a quiet rhythmic tune, a song of gravity and grace, a lullaby for a lost little spark under an alien sky.